So welcome back to session 2 of this year's Asia Fruit Congress, all online as we can see, and we're going to go with the beauty of the internet from all over the world in this next 45 minutes. In due course, we'll be hearing from friends in New Zealand about the way in which they're approaching this matter of new production models for the green future, which is the title of this session. But first, we're going to start in one of my favorite countries, the Netherlands. And we've got 3 fantastic speakers for you to discuss the whole issue about, what we're calling the green future, new production models. And the issue in Asia today is, how do we feed urban Asia? It's a growing challenge, and there's increased pressure on land and resources and the influence of climate change. And high-tech farming systems to new heat-resistant varieties are perhaps some of the solutions about how we can move forward to a new sustainable future for farming. And I'm going to, we break this session into 3 parts. As I said, we'll finish it with a very interesting contribution from New Zealand, from our friends at Food, Plant and Food and T&G Global. But first, we're going to focus, as I said, on the Netherlands. And we'll hear first from Ernst van der Ende, at Wageningen University, the center, almost the global center for research in all sorts of things horticultural. Let's hear first from Ernst van der Ende.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Ernst van der Ende, and I'm one of the directors in the board of Wageningen University and Research from the Netherlands. It's a great honor for me to be at the start of this session, focusing on the green future, new production models, the road to smart food in a green world. What I would like to do is to show you the insights from this perspective of Wageningen University and research on this green future. So we are all aware of the fact that we face main global challenges at the moment. We see climate change, we see overpopulation of urban centers, there is lots of malnutrition in the world, and next to that we also see overconsumption of nature and natural resources. So there is a great need for transitions, for a new way of producing agricultural food. And in the vision of Wageningen, these transitions need to be focused on the circular agri-food systems, so trying to reduce all the resources and try to optimize agricultural food production in such a way that we use less inputs. Another focus is on eating proteins from more diverse sources. Circular bio-based economy, so coming up with solutions that really fit into bio-based products. And last but not least, there is a strong transition on technological disruptions and digital connectivity in agriculture. And of course, if we work on these transitions, we will have an impact on the global challenges. And for sure, we need a lot of collaborations. So we try to partner with companies, with governments, with partner universities in order to have an impact on a global scale. We will probably agree on the fact that innovation is highly needed. And for me, it's quite easy to say that most of the research focusing on agricultural production in Wageningen is under the umbrella of more with less and better. So we need to produce more per square meters in order to feed the world, but at the same time we have to do that with less inputs. So less fertilizer, less water, less energy, and we have to do it better. So more safe, more transparent, you could say, more healthy food. So more, less and better is really a great mantra for all the innovation that we are focusing on at the moment. The mission statement of Wageningen University and Research is to explore the potential of nature to improve the quality of life. And I think it's a very strong mission statement because we are really looking into nature. We try to learn from all kinds of ecological processes, and then we try to transfer that into a way, together with technology, that at the end of the day will improve the quality of life of all the people living on Earth. We see a lot of new developments in agriculture. If you look on the left side, you see vertical farming. That is really in place not only in urban centers, but picking up from the things that are happening in metropolitan areas with vertical farming. a lot of these innovations are transferred to commercial farms. Next to that, you see a drone flying around. We can use a lot of technology at the moment in the field, not only on robotics and drones and that kind of stuff, but also on data science. And artificial intelligence is playing more and more a role today. We also see that there are possibilities to pick up the innovations from protected cultivation into the open field. And in this way, we are able to develop or design systems that have an optimal way of using nutrients and water. You see in this case a fruit orchard where we are producing fruit in gutters, and you can imagine that in this way we can optimize the water gift and the fertilizer gift without any spill off to the environment. Left on the bottom, you see new designs for systems that are more resilient. So using, in fact, you could say the biodiversity in strips around the production fields in order to stimulate natural enemies and in order to create a resilient system. In greenhouses, over the last 10 years, a lot of things changed. And now we have the ability to use LED lighting, we can influence plant growth, but not only that, we can also have a strong influence on the content of all kinds of interesting compounds in plants. We can, for instance, also increase the tolerance against pests and diseases through the effect of light. And that really changed the cropping system a lot. And last but not least, we see a new era coming up with stripping cultivation. Of course, we know that if you cultivate your crops in a more mixed way, you create a resilient system. And the spread of diseases will be reduced in such a system. And now we have technology in place that we really can use on a commercial basis in big commercial fields. And we have seen over the last 5 years a lot of changes in the open field situation in the Netherlands, where you see now the modern strip cultivation coming up. Being a scientist, this is really a very happy decade to live in, because there are lots of new developments. And we see, for instance, bioinformatics as a very important tool now to really come up with faster breeding cycles. We have technologies like CRISPR-Cas for gene editing, which again can speed up breeding a lot. We have a lot of robotics in place. We work on picking robots. We work on sensoring in systems where we use camera to identify if there are, or detect if there are any diseases or pests present in a crop before you can see it with your own eyes. And of course, things like microscope and other technologies really are offering us a position where we can work on early detection of diseases. So that brings us really in a position. We have technologies, we have changes in agriculture, and with that we can really design the new production systems for the future. If you want to know more, you can find on the website a lot of examples coming from Wageningen. And I would really look forward to starting partnerships and finding answers together for these big global challenges that we face together. Thank you very much.
Well, there's an old saying that you learn something new every day, and a new day has dawned and I've learned something new again, which was incredible. And I think this whole kind of interface between nature and technology is hugely important. I'm delighted to be joined down the line now from his office at Wageningen by Ernst von der Ende. Good morning, Ernst. That issue that I just mentioned, I mean, people seem to say, look, nature is here and technology is here, and what you're saying, they need to come together. That for nature to thrive, it needs the interface with technology in future. What for you are the most important technologies then for the near future?
Yeah, for me, it's really a combination. You cannot say that there is one very important technology. And what I would like to do is really to design sustainable cropping systems by using different technologies. And I really would like to go away from all kinds of dogmatic approaches, not only focusing on biological production or conventional production, but just picking up the good things from different cropping systems, and then design with all the technology that we have available a very sustainable system.
But there are so many people who say, that actually nature needs to be allowed to take its course, and technology should kind of steer away from nature. What you're saying is that actually technology has to have a very direct influence on helping nature to become more sustainable.
Yeah, I think that's the big difference at the moment. So in the past, we used technology to, you could say, simplify all kinds of things around labor or, say, harvesting processes. And nowadays, we first look at the ecological principles, and then we try to think what kind of technology fits into the system to use the ecological principles. And that is really changing the production systems a lot. So first of all, we look at, for instance, the stripping cultivation. We know that if we design such a system, it is more resilient to pests and diseases. But then, of course, we need technology. We need very specific robots that are able to harvest the products in such a stripping system, or to detect diseases in such a system. So now you see a completely new design of technology coming up based on new new systems that are based on ecological principles. So that's the other way around.
And one sees that when one visits the Netherlands in particular, where you're surrounded by agriculture, also surrounded by new technology. It's an incredible country where, and I think one of the most productive countries, isn't it, in the world when it comes to farming. The amount you produce
the production is very high, but I think that we are most proud of being not only very productive, but in a sustainable way. And I think we all can learn from these sustainable production systems in order to, on a global scale, design more sustainable systems at the end of the day.
Now, one of the biggest issues when it comes to the sustainability of agriculture is kind of a very basic one about how does one farmer, as it were, follow another farmer in terms of the generations of farmers. And there are many countries, one looks at Japan, for example, where they're saying that farming could literally die out because no new people are becoming farmers. And I know it's all a technological solution, but at the end of the day, it's also a human solution, isn't it? And is that, in some ways, the kind of the biggest concern you have? It's not so much the technology, it's about how do we get new farmers to embrace this technology and to start farming again?
Yeah, you're absolutely right, Chris. So if I look to the future, I'm quite optimistic having all these technologies available that we really can come up with new systems. But my nightmare is that there will not be any more farmers. So who are the successors of the farmers of today? And who are the youngsters that really are enthusiastic to pick up a job as a farmer? And I think, again, then technology plays an important role, because if we are able to modernize agriculture, maybe that's a more appealing job to youngsters than it is today.
So all of those parents who are telling their children to put down their mobile phones, they may actually be depriving them of a job, a future job in agriculture. They should actually be encouraged to pick up their mobile phones because they might become a farmer in future.
Yeah. I think that's a very good one, Chris.
Okay, Ernst, that's very, very interesting. Thank you so much for joining me down the line from Wageningen.
Okay, thank you very much.
So let's now shift to kind of see how these really kind of fascinating concepts that Ernst has talked about are put into practice, and to look now at a case study, if we will, of technology in practice, these new technologies in practice, by looking at the way in which two, again, Dutch companies are working together. One, an extremely well-known seed company in our sector, Rijkswaan, and of course a company that's also known in their sector extremely well, a company called Signify, which is one of the leaders when it comes to new lighting technology. I'll be speaking in a moment to Jan Doldersum and Jano Moeren, of Rijkswaan and Signify, respectively. But let's hear from them first.
Hello, good afternoon, dear visitors of the Asia Fruit Congress. In this session of the Green Future New Production Models, Rijkswaan and Signify will provide you insights on the topic high-tech seeds and lights for high-tech plants. We have recorded this from our brand new studio in De Lier, the Netherlands. My name is Jan Doldersum, Manager Chain and Retail from Rijkswaan, and I'm happy that Jan de Moren, plant specialist from City Farming Signify Philips, is with me here at our studio. So let's start with the presentation. In this slide, we have pictured for you the most prominent global challenges. I like to highlight two of them. First, food safety, which is still of major concern for lots of consumers when buying fresh produce, even more so in the current corona situation. We have seen multiple outbreaks of E. coli, Salmonella, Listeria infections, which were linked to products from open field. The second one, product availability. At the right moment, the right volume is an important insurance for retail, trade and processing. With hydroponics, you can plan your production volume more easily because you're not or less dependent on climate circumstances. You can control your climate more easily in a greenhouse and harvest the volume which customer needs. Create certainty in the production chain. For these challenges, vertical farming specifically and closed environmental horticulture in general could be the solution. What are the main attention points for vertical farming? Here I like to highlight three aspects. First one, production costs, or more specifically the return on investment, is currently the highest concern when investing in high-tech cultivation. Is this business financially viable? Know your cost structure. In the world of vertical farms, the energy and labor costs have presently high impact on the total cost structure and final cost price of your plant. Working with the right partners who can provide you the right insights and have in-depth knowledge on systems, process and value chain is very beneficial. The second one, geolocation. Main interest currently for vertical farms is in high-priced residential locations, like for instance Singapore, but also in mega cities in China and Japan. And Japan has another specific interest to build in earthquake locations. And the last one, also selecting the right crop and variety is crucial. Reach best quality and maximum yield. What is the exact role of Rijkswaan in these kind of projects? Apart from providing the right genetics, we offer unique traits to overcome issues in cultivation. But we also provide other services like advising on crop and cultivation management, market insights and chain management. So this means we also support in the introduction of product concepts to the market, like for instance Salanova. What are the most common traits for breeding to improve in growing in vertical farming? Breeding for controlled environmental conditions means selecting for these mentioned aspects. On the top picture, you see tubburn in butterhead lettuce, and on the bottom, you see plants which are stretching in far red light. It is an induction of bolting caused by stress. In this type of research project, we work intensively with Signify to breed for varieties for various improvements. And this is one of the examples of concepts we have developed for vertical farming. Salanova teen leaf, a more dense, closer planting to optimize the output. Upright leaf structure for good yield and volume, which creates possibilities for mechanical harvest. And another interesting concept is Nox, delayed pinking for processed lettuce, now also available for vertical farming. So let's continue this presentation with the part of Jarno. Jarno, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Jan. I would like to zoom in a little bit more on how to optimize crop performance with high-tech lighting. When I speak about high-tech lighting, I speak about dynamic lighting, where you can set the percentages of, for example, blue, red, green, and far red. This gives you more flexibility, controllability, and also predictability. For flexibility, you can change crops over time and follow the latest crop trends. So you can grow lettuce today, arugula tomorrow, and next week pak choi to offer to your customers. You can also optimize light recipes for these specific varieties. In controllability, you can improve nutritional value, so you can increase vitamin C or decrease nitrate. You can optimize shelf life and steer on crop morphology, such as coloration. In predictability, you can optimize lighting for every growth phase of the plant, from seedling to the pre-harvest. You can improve plannability and forecast your yield more accurately. Looking at flexibility, you can optimize your spectrum for different varieties. Right here, you see a variety screening we did together with Rijkswaan, and every bar you see in this graph represents a single lettuce variety and its effect on far red. On the left side, you see the varieties that have a clearly negative effect of far red, so they perform better in the spectrum without far red, while on the right side, we see huge benefits of a spectrum of far red for these varieties. This tells us that even within the same crop, lettuce in this example, spectrum has an impact. For controllability, you can enhance coloration in red lettuce, for example. In this example, a red oak Ruxai from Rijkswaan. In a vertical farm, plants grow without stress and they don't color red. In a vertical farm, you have therefore to color your plants with a pre-harvest coloration treatment. We change the spectrum of the light and color the plants red just in the last few days. You can also brand your lettuce, as you can see. For predictability, you can do your yield forecasting more accurately. You can speed up or slow down your growth cycle if that's needed. You can store the data in the cloud and learn from the data you gather from your vertical farm to learn how to increase or how to decrease your growth speed to offer a better plannability for your customers. And to conclude, I would like to highlight a project in Japan, Shinipu, where Rijkswaan and Signify are working together and running electricity costs have decreased by 40%, while the vegetable growth rates have climbed by roughly 20 to 30%. This is a great example how high-tech lights and high-tech seeds can really increase a vertical farm performance. Thank you for listening and attending the sessions, and let's start the Q&A.
Well, again, more fascinating stuff when it comes to technology and how technology and new technology is working and having an impact on our lives today. I'm delighted now to be joined by Jan in his wonderful new studio. It's really impressive, Jan. I like it. And by Jarno, who's very well lit there, I can see. Nice to see you both. Good morning and welcome. Jarno, if I could come to you first. In which kind of countries and cities in Asia are you very busy? And where do you see the most vertical farming happening at the moment? It's places like Japan and Korea, isn't it? And where do you see things happening in future?
Yeah, I think vertical farming is relevant for a lot of big cities to secure fresh and high quality food. I think it's not only for Japan. I think it also counts for other mega cities in Asia and even around the world. It's everywhere where they have a need for fresh, high quality food.
And this focus on Asia, do you see it particularly, as it were, the growth in vertical farming? Do you see it particularly happening in Asia?
Yeah, it's certainly happening in Asia. It's like you're mentioning, and it's happening in Japan already for quite some years. You also see the interest from other cities like Singapore and other big cities.
And how long do you think it'll be before I find a kind of the corner vertical farm here in London, which is, I think, the most densely populated city in Europe, a city of 8 million, which I know is very small by comparison with Asia?
It's already there. There are a lot of already quite some vertical farms in London.
I shall have to go and start looking more carefully. Yeah. Jan, coming to you, which are the kind of crops that are mainly produced around the world? Around vertical farms. It's the salads that you guys are famous for.
Yeah, I think in general you can say leafies in general. So lettuces, but also more Asian leafy types are very popular. Pak choi. But now you see also more fruiting or fruit-bearing crops like strawberries, for instance, are potentially interesting. But if you look in a more broader scope in terms of semi-closed greenhouses or indoor, then you can also think about all the fruit crops in general.
And the particular interest for you at Rijksfarm in vertical farming, for the layman, somebody who doesn't understand and doesn't follow these things so closely, is that all the seeds that you've produced to date have all been for open field or glasshouse and not for vertical farm. So you're actually having to produce seeds with a vertical farm in mind. Is that do I understand correctly?
Yeah, that is true. And actually these trend came along as Jan was stating. Japan was probably the leading country in these developments. So we've seen over the last 10 years already this trend. And for breeding new varieties specifically for this industry, it can take 5 to 10 years. So we need to invest also in terms of research and development, which we are doing. And I showed some examples in the presentation that there are new traits, especially this elongation and this red coloring under these light conditions and the LED light conditions are different. So you need these new traits will you need new genetics for this. And now we are coming with an assortment which also are able to cope with these circumstances.
And just briefly, Jan, you're able to adjust, aren't you, by adjusting the lighting, the kind of nutrient levels in the products themselves as well?
Yeah, so with lighting and in a vertical farm generally, you can really steer on crop characteristics such as the nutritional value, like increasing vitamin C or decreasing nitrate or increasing shelf life. So you can really steer on what is happening inside and outside the plant.
And Jan, this technology, I know that you invest a huge amount of money every year in developing new seeds and stuff, but the investment that you're making in vertical farming, I can imagine it doesn't come cheap. Are you hoping that the product that you'll produce therefore sells at a kind of higher market price as well to return more money and to return this investment more quickly?
Yeah, so it's not. I mean, the trait development for producing under lights is not only specific and needed for vertical farms, but you see more and more also lit cultivation in, for instance, semi-closed greenhouses. So the horizontal production. So these traits can also be useful for other types of cultivation. And in the end, you're right. It's about the willingness to pay of consumers. So are consumers willing to pay a higher price for these high-tech produced products? And maybe to give you an example, in Japan, the average price of lettuce retail sales price is around 100 to 150 yuan. So that means 80 to €1.20. And we have one project with Sarah where we produce a salad trio, three seeds in one pot. And it's sold about 250 Japanese yen, so almost double the price. So people are indeed willing to pay a higher price for a high-tech production.
And Jarno, that must be, music to your ears, because there needs to be a commercial case for vertical farming. I mean, it's all well and good, all this money coming into vertical farming, but people can lose a lot of money in vertical farming if it doesn't actually work out, if the sums don't work out. By the sounds of it, it works out extremely well.
Yeah, I think it's already happening. If you're looking at the past years, there are already quite some vertical farms that are actually realized and making money actually. So I hope that the phase of only getting money and then going bankrupt is now past, and that really can look forward and have also the success stories to share.
Well, one of the things that we've always tried to do at the Asia Fruit Congress is to present people the future, and I'm often reminded of the fact that people have said to me, we saw this at your Asia Fruit Congress years ago, and I will bet my bottom dollar that somebody will come and say to me, we first thought about vertical farming having spoken to or having watched that particular session at your Asia Fruit Congress. So Jan and Jarno, thank you for presenting us this version of the future. It's extraordinarily exciting. And I'll turn now to go from the Netherlands and go all the way to the South Seas, to New Zealand. But before then, drop into Australia and hear again from our excellent Asia Director, Editorial, John Hay. John.
Thanks, Chris. Now, global warming is a huge issue for production of a range of horticulture crops, apples and pears included. And the Hot Climate Programme is a partnership between New Zealand's Plant and Food Research, the Institute of Agri-Food Research and Technology in Catalonia, Spain, and Spanish Grower Association Fruit Futur. The breeding program was established in 2002 to address the challenges Spanish apple and pear growers were facing with a hot climate, such as sunburn, softer fruit texture, and low colour. But it was quickly recognised that apple and pear growers around the world would face the same issues over time with a warming climate. The Hot Climate Programme has bred a number of hot climate tolerant apple and pear varieties. And last year, T&G Global joined the programme to commercialise these exciting new varieties worldwide. So Asia Fruit now heads to New Zealand for this concluding segment of the session, where we speak to Gavin Ross of Plant and Food Research and Peter Landon Lane of T&G Global about how the Hot Climate Programme is heating up.
Gavin and Peter, it's great to have you with us for the panel discussion for Asia Fruit Congress 2020. How much of a concern is a warming climate for global apple and pear production, and what kind of impacts have you seen so far, and where?
Well, global warming is a huge issue for all fields of agriculture, and growing apples is really no different in that respect. Apple growers around the world are seeing that their production regions are becoming drier with time. Often the hotter or warmer regions are becoming even hotter. There is a loss of diurnal temperature variation, day to night, on an apple orchard. And there's the emergence of quite different pest and disease populations. So these are big issues facing growers now. In terms of what we're seeing with fruit quality from orchards in those conditions, well, there are already some effects coming through with fruit texture, with fruit colour not developing in the way that an orchardist would like, and with the emergence of some different fruit disorders that we have not seen much of before. And amongst all that, growers are still demanding, wanting to see a high quality piece of fruit that enables them to deliver their product to the market profitably in those conditions that are getting hotter.
And how do you see these new varieties bred under the Hot Climate Programme differ from existing varieties, and how do you address these issues?
The program does rely on draws on the expertise at Plant and Food Research in New Zealand and also our partners IRTA in Spain. What is different about this program is that right from the outset, the breeding selections were made in Spain in those very hot growing conditions that the industry is confronting today. And so the products that are emerging from the pipeline have already been selected with those particular challenges in mind, and they win through.
The Hot Climate Programme started in 2002, so the varieties have been close to 20 years now under development. The global commercialisation process is now underway with T&G Global. Can you explain the plans here? What are the new varieties being planted, and will they come to represent a significant percentage of global production?
As the commercialisation partner for the Hot Climate Programme, T&G Global will be releasing the varieties under a range of different models and pathways, taking into account the characteristics of the different releases, but also the opportunities in different markets or with different partners. There's flexibility there. In the case of Hot 84A1, which is the first variety already being released, we'll be releasing that under a peer-to-peer network structure. The T&G Global will support with governance of the program, and the individual partners will be responsible for their own growing and sales and marketing activities. By the way, we're still open to expressions of interest in that program if you want to participate. In terms of material movement, that's well underway internationally, with material moving to a number of countries and through quarantine. We have an evaluation network established, and we have trial plantings already existing in Spain and elsewhere in continental Europe, the United Kingdom, and also in Australia. There's commercial quantities of Hot 84A1 already licensed for planting in Spain, so that'll be the first country to get into commercial production, of course, because that's where the variety is bred and originates. And we expect to see it rolled out across other countries following that trial and evaluation process. So we'd see this first new variety taking up a good market share in suitable countries over the coming years.
And what are the characteristics of the new varieties, and how do they compare with existing varieties on the market in terms of colour, shape, texture, size and flavour?
We're really excited about what the breeders from Plant and Food Research and IRTA have been able to achieve with the Hot Climate program. There's some exceptional material coming through the pipeline. In the case of the apple selections, they range in appearance from gold and green through to striped and blush. And in terms of the pear offerings, there's some really interesting traditional varieties with the traditional russeted appearance, but also some very interesting interspecific pears that have high colour and firm, crisp eating qualities.
Of course, for the selections coming from this program, not only must they have jumped that hurdle around hot climate suitability, but they must outperform all those other varieties that are already on the market from other production regions around the world.
Yeah, in terms of their consumer eating qualities, they're really top.
Great. And in addition to creating a sustainable future for production of apples and pears in existing temperate growing areas, how do you see the Hot Climate program varieties opening up new locations for growing apples and pears?
We do see that happening, and in fact we've already got quite strong interest from parties in non-traditional or what might be currently marginal apple and pear growing areas. And we see that contributing to an expansion of the overall apple market worldwide to tap into currently unmet consumer demand. The parties that have contacted us, interestingly, are also looking to become part of 12-month supply arrangements, so they could work not only to sell what they grow locally, but to work with counter-seasonal suppliers so that they can provide 12-month availability of the same variety to consumers in their markets.
And what will the Hot Climate program mean for the global apple and pear category in terms of the consumer offering? Will the program facilitate more consistent, high-quality supply? And will it mean production is grown closer to consumers?
No, absolutely. In fact, these are trends that we would hope, we believe this program plays right into. The varieties, the newer varieties, will provide growers with more options in terms of what varieties they can plant. Potentially, it opens up markets much closer to their production region, and a shorter supply chain is good for the environment for a range of reasons.
Yeah, and that lower environmental footprint would be in terms of things like potentially reduced inputs for growing, but also the shorter supply chains. And of course, growing closer to consumption or closer to market means fresher fruit, good access to high quality fresh fruit. And the ability to work with the same variety from counter-seasonal suppliers, as I said before, means that consumers will be able to be offered 12-month supply of their preferred variety around the year.
And do you see similar breeding programs for other fruit categories focused on developing varieties that can withstand a warming climate? Is more funding and research going into this field?
Yes, we do believe this will be an increasing focus for breeding programs around the world. But in the case of this program, we believe it is the most advanced program with this particular criteria in mind. But it's not going to be the only program, and we look forward to the day when there are a range of other breeding programs with other crops that are also targeting the changing climate and helping growers produce their products profitably.
Gavin and Peter, thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you.